Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Gary Thompson. I'm the Commercial Director at Virtuzone. I'm stepping in for our Managing Director today, who unfortunately was sick and has lost his voice. So the purpose of today's webinar is to talk about setting up your company in the UAE. I appreciate that there will be people that have some understanding of the UAE, and there will be people that are completely new to the market. So I will try and cover both bases. But even those who do have a knowledge of setting up in a free zone or setting up in mainland or setting up in the UAE, there has been a lot of change within the last 12 months, and there's a lot more to consider, which I aim to talk you through. So I'll move over to the presentation, and we'll start. And if you have any questions, anything you want answered, there's a question facility in Zoom. I'll come back to questions at the end, and we'll have a little bit of a question and answer session. Okay, so as I say, my name is Gary Thompson. My email is gt@vz.ae. At the end of the presentation, we'll have some offers, we'll have some ways that you can contact us. And if there's any queries, you can reach out to me and I'll distribute it to one of my team if I can't deal with it myself. So Virtuzone, I'm sure you're aware who we are, but we have over 200 employees now. Traditionally, our primary focus was setting up companies and processing visas. But now, as the landscape has developed in the UAE, we offer a huge range of services to suit your needs. And the idea is that we want to be a one-stop shop to suit your requirements in setting up a company and also maintaining the company to be successful. So we have locations in downtown, we have locations in Fujairah, we were in GLT as well. We were founded in 2009, and our owners have over 65 years of collective experience in the industry. Myself, I have a legal background. I've been in the UAE now for 6 years, and throughout my entire time, I've been working with Virtuzone. So my speciality is setting up companies, generally the more complicated cases where companies are relocating from other countries, publicly listed companies, but also I can deal with more straightforward setups, such as setting up a one-person company in a free zone or setting up a business in mainland that might grow. And we'll talk about the different options that are available to you in the UAE. So Virtuzone, we've set up now more than 70,000, we've assisted more than 70,000 entrepreneurs set up a company, and we've serviced more than 180 countries. So one of the real attractive things about the UAE is the diversity. It's open to all, there's so many different countries, there's so much opportunity, especially at the moment, that there really is no better time to explore the UAE as a jurisdiction to set up or relocate your company. Now, you've probably seen this before. There are three main types of company in the UAE. There's a mainland company, there's a free zone company, or there's an offshore company. So for a very small jurisdiction, the UAE has over 60 places where you can set up your company. So there's different mainland jurisdictions, there's more than 50 free zones, there's also offshore jurisdictions. And I'll just touch a little bit on what each of those mean. Now, mainland is traditionally what people understood to be the 51% local partner model. As of June 2022, or 2021, sorry, that's no longer required. And you can own a company 100% on your own in most circumstances. Not all circumstances, but in most circumstances. Now, the benefit of mainland is that you can operate anywhere in the emirate where you set the company up. It's the type of company that most government or quasi-government companies would like to deal with, and ultimately it has the least restrictions. So sometimes it's a little bit more expensive to set up, but once you've set the company up, you have the least limitation. The only limitation that you would have essentially is that if you were a trading company, for example, and you wanted to trade in Dubai, and then you wanted to also trade with the government in Abu Dhabi, you would also require to have an Abu Dhabi branch of your company so that you can service the Emirate of Abu Dhabi as well as servicing the Emirate of Dubai. Now, free zones, there's been quite a lot of change with free zones recently. It was always understood that free zone companies would be tax-free for 50 years, they would be completely exempt. And with the introduction of corporation tax, everyone was led to believe that that was going to be the case in certain circumstances. But the common misconception in the market is what was intended as we understood to be the case, but not now what is actually the case. So a lot of people think if they have a free zone company, they can operate outside the UAE without any obligations, without any tax, without any accounting, without any compliance. But unfortunately, that's not the case. There were changes to the law on corporation tax on the 4th of June of this year, and there's been further updates recently. So for a free zone company, the very, very expansive tax advantages that were anticipated, expected, a lot of people still think they exist. Unfortunately, those have been restricted quite significantly. Now, there are still some benefits. There are what's called a free zone exemption if you meet certain characteristics. For example, if you have a headquartered business and you're providing services to related companies, that can be a completely tax exempt company. But to get that exemption, you need to meet the criteria, you need to meet the definition, and you also have to have audited accounts, which is a requirement for the free zone exemption. There's a new consideration, which will become, I believe, quite a big consideration. It's what's the difference between a free zone and a designated zone. Now, a designated zone essentially is a free zone, but it has some sort of border control. So good examples are Jebel Ali free zone, for example. Jebel Ali free zone is gated. When goods are imported into Jebel Ali, they essentially have to be exported to leave the free zone. So there is what I think will become quite a relied upon exemption, which is called distribution from a designated zone exemption, where if you are buying goods from country A, let's say the USA, and selling the goods to the UK, and the goods don't physically come into the mainland of Dubai, then it looks like there could be a tax exemption where you could set up a company here, be completely tax exempt. You still have to file, you still have to register, you still have to comply, you still have to have audits, but selling from country A to country B could be completely exempt from tax, but only if you're in a designated zone. So if you set up in Jebel Ali Free Zone Authority, that would be a designated zone and you could benefit from that exemption. Whereas if you were to set up in DMCC or Dubai World Trade Center, for example, those are just free zones. They are not designated zones. So you wouldn't get the same tax advantage. Now, we have to be very, very careful when we're talking about the tax advantages because things have changed quite significantly. Anything I give at the moment is just my personal opinion based on the regulations I have seen so far. And we would strongly recommend that you take very strong tax advice on any exemption you're seeking to rely upon with your specific circumstances. But we can help guide you from the outset and help you have the best chance of being tax efficient. Now, offshore is where you have a company that are normally used for holding purposes. So, for example, RAC ICC, ADGM, SPV, those types of companies are not legally treated as if they're within the territory of the UAE. So the benefit of a holding company is that you have much more flexibility in terms of the shareholding. So a common thing that people want to do that's quite difficult to do through a free zone or mainland is to have split percentage shares. So if someone wants to have 2.5% or someone wants to have 3.7%, generally in free zones and mainland, you're restricted to having full percentiles. In offshore, you can split the percentages and you also have much more flexibility on the classes of shares. So if you want to give someone voting rights, if you want to give someone certain powers, if you want to give someone certain options, you have much more flexibility in offshore. And that's largely because with offshore companies, you have the benefit of bringing in English and Welsh common law rather than partner disputes or shareholder disputes being dealt with under Sharia law via Dubai courts. So it's always good to be optimal as soon as you can. So the best structure is always to have a holding company and then have the operational company underneath. But sometimes you don't know if the business is going to do well. You don't have the capital to have the premium structure from day one. So that's something that you can kind of work towards if required. Or, for example, you have someone that wants to invest $2 million. They'll only do it if the criteria E, criteria B, criteria C are met. Then that's something that you would structure through an offshore holding company. So just looking at the process generally, as there are over 60 places that you can set your company up, each have their own policies, procedures, prices, advantages, disadvantages. And that's really where you get the benefit of dealing with a company like Virtuzone, because what we try and do is we try and find the correct jurisdiction for you that will suit your current needs and will also suit your future needs, rather than trying to fit everything you want to do into one particular jurisdiction, like Mainland or like DMCC or Ras Al Khaimah. Now, if you don't speak to someone who's independent and deals with all of the jurisdictions, if you speak to DMCC, that of course they're going to promote how good their product is. If you speak to Ras Al Khaimah, they're going to promote how good their product is. If you speak to Maidan, they're going to promote how good their product is. Now, they can't offer more than one product, so they can only tell you how good their product is, and they won't be as incentivized to tell you about the disadvantages. So with ourselves, what we try to do is we try to offer a completely impartial service. We try and find the best jurisdiction that will suit you today, but most importantly, we also talk to you about your future plans, because what might suit you today might not necessarily suit you tomorrow. And looking to the biggest mistake I see in this industry is everyone always focuses on trying to do it for the cheapest possible way. Now, you might go from one jurisdiction to another and save 5,000 dirhams today, but that ultimately could cost you a $1 million investment later. So it's very, very important at the outset to think about your current requirements, but also think about your future requirements. And I appreciate it's not always possible to know exactly what you're going to be doing in the future, but to have an idea and to have a think about the directions that you want to go in, that will help with the structuring, but it'll also help with your business plan. It's always good to have a business plan from the outset, what you want to do. Note it down, even if it starts as a one-page document, it can develop, it can grow, it can pivot. But you should always have a business plan at the outset. You shouldn't be getting into this, like, just having a good product or just having a good service doesn't mean you have a good business. So you've got to think about the kind of overall requirements to be successful. So what we do as a generality to set the company up is we prepare your documents, we then get your business license. Once you have your license, you get the visa. Once you have the visa, and most importantly, your physical Emirates ID, you can then get the bank account. Once you have the bank account, you can then start operating. You can hire staff, you can do other things. And then you have to think about your compliance requirements now. So you have to do accounting, you have to register for corporation tax, you have to file for corporation tax, you have to register for VAT in certain circumstances. So all of those considerations you need to think about as where your business is going. And what we've seen over time is the cost of setting up a business in the UAE has dropped substantially. So as the compliance requirements have increased, and the fact that you're going to have to spend money keeping accounts, filing accounts, registering for VAT, doing all these steps that are common in other countries but are relatively new here, the government have strategically dropped the pricing of licensing so that can be offset. And they've also removed the requirement for a 51% local, which means that you don't have to pay a local every year, which again is another cost benefit for you. So what do you need to consider other than setting up the company? So you need to consider VAT. VAT is based on a revenue threshold of $100,000 or 375,000 dirhams, just to give rough figures. You must register before you reach $100,000, and you can register when you reach $50,000, but you cannot register from day one. And even if all of your business is outside of the UAE, you still have to register once you reach those thresholds, and then you apply for an exemption. So if you do nothing, you will get a fine. Accounting has been mandatory for some time, but it's even more important now than it has ever been. So you need to keep accounts. And with the corporation tax introduction, you now have to file those accounts at the end of every tax year. Audits can be required, and that will depend on if you're looking for a free zone exemption, for example, or if you're in a particular free zone or if you're in a particular jurisdiction. Some of them insist on audits. In my opinion, it looks like over time we will move towards every company requiring an audit, but at the moment it's being slowly introduced. So one of the biggest misconceptions is corporation tax. People think, okay, I have no revenue, I only have a visa company, therefore I have to do nothing. Or I've only made 50,000 dirhams profit, I have to do nothing. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and a lot of people are going to find that out the hard way. So with corporation tax, you must register, you must keep accounts, and you must file. And that's essential for every company. So when I say company, LLC, free zone establishment, any company that's incorporated with shares. There are some exemptions where the rules are treated a little bit differently. So what you should always do is you should speak to a professional about it, get advice on your current circumstances and your future circumstances, and act accordingly. And there's now a big push for anti-money laundering. So certain activities such as real estate or anything really where you take clients' money and do something with it, you have to comply with AML obligations. Economic substance regulations also apply for certain activities as well, such as a holding company. And should you set up in a free zone, should you set up in a designated zone, speak to us about it, tell us what you're looking to do, tell us what market you want to service. Is it services? Is it trading? We can give you advice and advise you on which free zones to look at, whether you should look at a designated zone, whether you should look at mainland, whether you should add a holding company. That's really where we add value in this process. Also, a lot of people forget as well that they set up a company, they have a good idea, they have a good brand, but they forget to protect it. So it's very, very important that you protect your IP and your intellectual property. So one of the key things you should do is you should register a trademark so you protect your brand, so that if anyone else comes with a similar name or an identical name in your industry, you can challenge that and have them change it. So there's a lot of copycatting that goes on here. People try to hang on the coattails of the success of others. Having IP protection helps you combat that. Also, as I mentioned before, you can move towards having a better structure over time. Ideally, you have it from day one, but ideally you have a trademark from day one. Ideally, you protect as many countries as you can from day one, but you've got to weigh that off against the practicalities of how much it will cost, how long it will take. All those things you've got to consider. Now, these are the types of services that we now offer. So we offer PRO services, golden visa, tourist visas. We offer second citizenship. We have legal services, IT services. We can manage your telephone. We can offer receptionist services. We do mail management. We deal with wills, trademark, compliance, health insurance, VAT and tax consultancy, accounting and payroll, bank account opening. We also now have a crypto division. We can help you with real estate. We can help you with all these different things. So as our clients' requirements grow, as a business, what we do is we grow to accommodate. We really try and be a one-stop shop insofar as we can. And if we can't help you directly, we have a partnership or we have someone who will be able to give you a good service in the service that we can't offer. So why should you set up a business in the UAE? It's a great place to do business. You can have 100% business ownership. You can repatriate 100% of your profit. There's taxation treaties with lots of countries where there's a tax benefit of coming through Dubai or coming through the UAE generally. There's 0% income tax. Obviously, that's from a UAE perspective. You still have to take tax advice for anywhere else that might claim you're a tax resident in that country. And there's low VAT and low corporation tax. The state of that infrastructure. We've got roads, we've got ports, and Dubai and the UAE is just very, very fast moving. They see an opportunity, they decide they're going to act on it, and they do it. Like you see that we have casinos coming. You see that we're very much trying to attract the crypto and the Web3 market. Dubai is open and the UAE is open to acting very, very quickly. So if there's an opportunity, they seize the opportunity, they can turn things around very, very quickly. And that's why it's such a great, great place to do business. And it's also globally connected. Like, I always laugh when people say that Dubai is strategically located, but ultimately the UAE is located where it is. It's just convenient that it's within 8 hours of most of the markets across the world. So the business advantages, as I said, there's 0% income tax. There's one of the lowest corporation taxes in the world. To be honest with you, I initially thought the corporation tax in the UAE would maybe bring some negative, but actually what we've seen is the opposite, because what it's done is it's opened the UAE up to a lot of new markets that would not previously set up in the UAE because it was seen as a tax haven. So now that corporation tax is introduced, now that there's much more stringent compliance procedures, now that it's aligning with a lot of other countries in the world, what this does is it improves banking ratings, it improves confidence, it brings in countries that wouldn't previously have invested a lot of money here. So actually, it's been a very, very, very positive move. There's around 80% of the Fortune 500 companies in the world, including the top 10, that have a presence in the UAE. We have the Etihad, we have Emirates, and 2/3 of the world's population are within 8 hours of Dubai. So since I've moved to the UAE, I've never seen more countries than I've seen in my life, because it's so easy to get on a flight and get to interesting places that you wouldn't normally be able to access through the UK. You'd have to have very, very long haul flights, you'd have to have connections, but Dubai is a very, very good location for these types of things. So again, why the UAE? So a lot of people think UAE must be oil, but actually, Dubai is a very, very strong non-oil economy that supports growth across different sectors, including retail and e-commerce, agriculture and food, advanced manufacturing, tech and innovation, clean tech and energy, healthcare, finance, shipping, logistics, maritime, finance, professional services. You'll also see with the COP28 conference ongoing at the moment that there's a huge, huge interest in the UAE. There's a lot of very, very interesting projects. There's a lot of very, very interesting visitors. And I think after the conference, we'll see a spike in interest in the UAE next year. Like I've been in contact with the Scottish delegation. I've been dealing with a few different people that are over visiting for COP. So many people see opportunity here because it's very, very fast moving. It's reactive. Things can get done very, very quickly without the bureaucracy that you have in other countries. And if they decide to do something, they do it very, very fast, very, very easily. Sometimes we need to wait. A decision is made before we have all the proper procedures and policies in place, but we get there. And that's really one of the key things I like about the UAE. So there's also the UAE's national entrepreneurship agenda, where we look to have 10 unicorn companies by 2031 and have 1 million companies in the UAE by 2030. Now, normally when these sort of strategies, although bold, are set, they're generally achieved in the UAE. So the UAE will do what it needs to do to attract. There's also a huge industrial strategy where we're aiming to have a Dubai knowledge base and a sustainable innovation for a sort of central global hub. The aim is to generate 43.6 billion in revenue by 2030, and that's $43.6 billion. There's also the Dubai Future District, which aims to develop the new economy with a dedicated fund of $272 million. It's currently on track to receive $544 million in non-oil foreign trade by 2025. So those are just a sort of snapshot of the projects that the UAE are involved in. There's also accelerators. There's the DIFC FinTech Hive for fintech businesses. There's N5. There's Humanitarian Innovation Accelerator Program, and there's Dubai SME Accelerator. The UAE is doing more and more and more to attract businesses, particularly from key sectors, because they want the economy to boom. And ultimately, why would you choose us to help you on this journey? So we're the industry leading company in doing what we do. In other countries, we probably wouldn't exist because there's so much choice in the UAE, sometimes there's red tape, sometimes there's inconvenience. You need someone to kind of guide you through the process at the beginning who understands it, who understands the difference between Ras Al Khaimah and Maidan, who understands the difference between DIFC and ADGM. Like, what you will find here is that a lot of people will promise you the world but not actually deliver. So we really try to have accountability to help you in the business journey. And it's our goal for your business to do well, because we're not just a setup company. Our business model is based on your business flourishing, is based on renewals, additional services, guiding you through the journey. Because the better service we give you, the more likely you are to be successful, and the more likely you are to continue as a client. Because of our relationships and because we provide so many licenses, we often get fast-track services from particular free zones, from particular jurisdictions that aren't available to other people. We also have strategic government partnerships and corporate partnerships. So if we can't do something directly, we should have a contact that can do it for you. We also get offered discounts from a huge range of companies, whether it be clients, whether it be customers, whether it be third parties. Because of our huge client base, so many people want to offer discounts that you can benefit from as a Virtuzone client. We also have a memorandum of understanding with the Dubai FDI, where they basically approve our model of bringing in foreign investment from abroad. It's tried, it's tested, it's proven, and we can deal from very, very easy cases to very, very complicated cases. We also always try and have a dedicated account manager set to you at all times. Because we offer so many different services, it's hard for always be in touch with one person, but the key aim is to have one person that you can rely on contacting, who can then guide you through these different services. We have 24/7 support, and we really try to offer an end-to-end solution in a market that's developing. So just some examples of the promotions we have on at the moment. So we have a kind of very unique product, which we're calling the Silver Visa package. So you might have heard of the Golden Visa. The Golden Visa, generally you need to invest 2 million dirhams. Once you've invested the 2 million dirhams, you can get a 10-year visa. And the 10-year visa can then be allocated to your family and can be renewed every 10 years. There's a sort of middle ground option that's available that we have exclusive access to the moment, where you can get a 5-year visa instead of a 10-year golden visa, and rather than spending 2 million dirhams, you can spend it for 60,000 dirhams. And as part of the conditions to get the visa, you have to have a license. The license will be a 5-year license. We'll help you with a bank account, and also separately we can help you with corporate services of running the business. So it's a very, very good, attractive package that can get you a long-term visa. And the demand for long-term visas are increasing a lot, particularly for people who want to make challenges to their domicile for inheritance tax purposes. So in the UK, because of visas only being for 2 or 3 years in the past, it's been very, very difficult for you to say that you're not domiciled in the UK for inheritance tax purposes anymore. But now that 10-year visas and 5-year visas are available, I've started to see kind of challenges to that. So it'll be interesting to see how the case law develops. And it'll be the same in other countries. Dubai is no longer a sort of transient jurisdiction where you come in and out based on your job. You can come in, you can be here long term, you can invest long term, and it's not just entirely linked to your job. We also have another offer, which we're calling the Works. Essentially, it's everything that you'll need as a business owner for a full year. So it includes your license, your visa, VAT registration, VAT filing, corporation tax registration, corporation tax filing. Ultimately, we'll take care of the admin, and you can take care of running your business. Because yes, could you go and do this on your own? Yes, you probably could. How long would it take you? It would take you hours. How many mistakes would it? In fact, it would take you weeks. How many mistakes would you make? You would make a lot. Would you pick the correct jurisdiction? Would you know what you need to comply with? Do you know if you have ultimate beneficial owner requirements? Do you know if you have economic substance regulations requirements? What are your AML requirements? What are your filing requirements? All these questions are things that we consider, and we guide and advise you on, so that you can focus on making your business a success. Because if you waste 2 months, 3 months, if you think about how much revenue you've lost doing that versus a small fee that we charge to keep you on track, honestly, it's a no-brainer. And then finally, as I mentioned to you, there's a huge misconception about free zone companies and companies generally. So people think if we don't have any income, or we don't have any profit, or we don't have any staff, that you don't have to comply with corporation tax regulations. Now that is wrong, and we are currently running a corporate social responsibility effort to try and educate the market that anyone who has a company must register, must file, and must keep accounts. Now, what we've actually pledged to do is we've pledged to make 10,000 companies tax ready for free. So we're giving away a package we would normally charge 5,000 dirhams for. All you have to do is visit taxready.ae, fill out your information, upload your company documents, and we will register you for corporation tax. We will do your December, your November, and your October accounts, because most companies, their first tax year will start on the 1st of January next year. So our aim is to get 10,000 companies tax ready for free by the 1st of January 2024. Now, if you already have a company, you can benefit from it. The company doesn't even have to be with us. There's absolutely no obligation. If you're setting up a new company with us, everyone who sets up a new company qualifies for this offer as well. Now, I'm just going to switch back to the chat, because I see there's quite a few messages. Just give me 1 second to get the information up, and we'll deal with the questions and answers. Okay, so I've had someone ask how many visas typically come with a business license. So ultimately, that depends on where you set the company up. So you have licenses that come with 0. Most free zone licenses come with 2, and in some free zones you can have up to hundreds of visas. Generally, Mainland is unlimited, but it depends on where your office is. So Brian has asked a question about, I want to transfer our company headquarters in Dubai while doing the actual business in Africa in multiple countries, but the headquarters are in Dubai. What advantages does this come with? How can I do this? So this potentially could become a headquarter business that is providing services to related parties. And if that's the case, then it could be completely corporation tax exempt. Even if it's not completely corporation tax exempt, your corporation tax rate is going to be 9% instead of a higher rate that I assume that you're paying in Africa. You can also pick up a lot of good resources in Dubai. You can hire staff and talent that you wouldn't be able to pick up as easily in Africa. And you can also provide services to different countries if required. Just looking through the other questions. Okay, so EJ has asked, for a consulting business, what are the restrictions, for example, when the business license is from RAC? Now, consultancy has always kind of fallen under what people call a grey area. So the argument with consultancy is that if you're providing the consultancy remotely, then you can provide it from a free zone. So theoretically, if you're in Ras Al Khaimah, you're providing a remote service to me, that's absolutely fine. Where it gets a little bit different is if you're actually providing the consultancy in person. So like if you're physically going to someone's office or you're physically providing a service, that would be excluded. So from a free zone, generally consultancy is absolutely fine. And it doesn't really matter normally which free zone it is, unless it's a particular type of consultancy. If you're doing an engineering consultancy, then you need approval from Dubai municipality in Dubai. If you're doing an educational consultancy, you might need KHDA. So there are certain consultancies where it's different, but for most consultancies, it's fine to do it from a free zone, and it's fine to do it remotely. Actually, the majority of consultancies set up in a free zone. However, it's really, really easy to set up a consultancy in the mainland now as well. Cost a little bit more, compared to the average of a free zone, but it will give you a lot more advantages in the future. And there's no real tax advantage of doing consultancy from a free zone versus mainland. So your long-term goals might be better met by spending just a little bit more getting a free zone company at the outset. So someone has asked, what is the silver package? How many visas do you get and how many dependents can you sponsor? So with the silver visa package, it comes with a visa for the main shareholder in the business. In some circumstances, the 5-year visa will be granted immediately. And in some circumstances, you'll need to start with a 2-year visa and then switch to a 5-year visa. Once you have the 2-year or the 5-year visa, you can sponsor as many dependents as you want, just as long as it's your direct dependents, such as wife, family, and you have the associated documents tested. Ali has asked, are there any special programs for online AI tech companies? I think there are, but one thing that's quite difficult to do here is actually find them. So I'm dealing with someone just now who might be doing something in this field. So I'll take a note of your question, and if anything progresses with it, I'll let you know. AJ has asked about the works package after paying the 29,999 for the year. What are the yearly costs after that? The annual costs are essentially 29,999. So you keep your license, you keep your accounting, VAT, everything is included. So the annual cost is 29,999. Kirsten has asked, do I have to register for corporation tax as a freelancer on a free zone freelancer license? It really depends on what type of license you have. So if you have a freelance permit that is not a company, that's treated as what's called personal income. And as per my understanding of the current rules, if your personal income is less than 1 million dirhams, you don't have revenue, not profit, then you don't have to register for corporation tax. But if you have if someone has set you up with a company but is calling it a freelance permit, then the company has to register. It's very, very difficult to give you firm advice on this without looking at the documents, without looking at it in detail. Nothing I say here for these questions should firmly be relied upon without looking into them in detail, just to give you some guidance. But if it's a freelance permit, then you may fall under the exemption as long as your revenue is less than 1 million dirhams. Someone has asked, Omkar, can we get an additional visa if required in the future? Yes, you can. You can always adjust the packages to add extra visas as and when required. Mohammed has asked a similar question. Is there any financial support from the government? Traditionally, not directly, but of late, yes. Like there are programs available in Abu Dhabi. There are programs available that are bringing in certain industries or paying salaries for certain industries or giving away free things to certain industries. It's very, very difficult to find them. What I'd recommend that you do is you network and you speak to companies like us, and if there's any opportunities like that, then we can try and help you find them. Taiwo has asked, is there any means of payment installment for opening a new company? The answer to that is yes, but you need to have a UAE credit card. So we're linked with a lot of the major banks. You pay on your credit card, and then it goes into 0% installment over 12 months, where we cover the interest. If you're new to the country, then no, there isn't really any installment options, because traditionally the way that you do installments is it's got to be a UAE credit card or checks. And most people are trying to move away from checks. So Serena has asked a question that crops up all the time. Can you explain more about the business activities? How specific do you need to be? So in the UAE, you actually have to be extremely specific. You don't you can't say I want this company that will do everything. So each activity in the UAE is split into activity groups, and generally you can only pick activities from the same group. Some free zones have exemptions to that. With Mainland, it's now quite strict. So the activity question is quite an important question. So what I try to do when I'm dealing with this is I ask a client, just talk to me as if I know nothing about your industry. Tell me about what you're looking to do, and then I'll identify some activities, and then we'll discuss the activities and narrow them down. Anyone who sends you an activity list and just says pick from these activities isn't doing their job properly, because there's thousands of activities. We are the ones that are supposed to know where you should be pushed towards rather than you. That's really a big function of what we do. Zamina has asked, can you open multiple businesses under one business license if they are of the same nature? All are food related and all business are e-commerce related. The answer to that is probably yes. There are some practical questions that you need to consider, like, for example, would Deliveroo or would the aggregator allow you to have multiple names for one company? Possibly yes. Also, you might need to have separate trademarks so that you can have separate trading names, so that you can have separate websites. But yes, you could potentially do it from one company if they're all in the same industry. For Mainland, EJ has asked, for Mainland, is a physical office required? Generally, the answer to that is yes. There are virtual solutions available, but every Mainland license should have an address attached to it. There is something which is called an instant license, but honestly, it causes more problems than it solves, because with an instant license, you then have problems with visas and banking, etc. So it's always better to have a business address attached to your license. Rahul has asked about understanding the corporate tax registration. If you visit www.taxready.ae, you can sign up for free. There's more information there, and we'll register you if you already have a company for free. Mohammed has asked, can I have a free consultation with you before signing a contract? Absolutely. That's exactly how we work. So what we do is we meet, we consult, we give free information initially, and then we take payment on delivery of the service. So we'll give you a quote and you decide to go ahead or not. The only exception to that is if it's very, very complicated. If it's going to take us hours to go away and find out the answer, we would ask for some sort of retainer fee, because unfortunately we get a lot of people, even competitors, that come to us and ask us questions. We do all the research, and then they take our work and go elsewhere. So if it's something that's within our kind of recent knowledge, then absolutely everything's for free. If it's something very, very complicated with approvals and a lot of time needs to be spent to generate a proposal, then we would charge a retainer. Omkar has asked, how do I set up a meeting with one of the VZ consultants? Take it further. So if you visit go.vz.ae and put in your details on the right hand side, it will be allocated to one of my team. Alternatively, you can email me, but I won't be able to get back to you as quickly as the go.vz.ae. My email is G for golf, T for tango, at V for victory, Z for Zulu.ae, gt@vz.ae. Mohammed has just asked, I registered an LLC in Wyoming, how to conduct business in the UAE. To be honest with you, Mohammed, you're at a huge disadvantage if you don't have a UAE company. Yes, you can do business from foreign entities, but what you will find is that as soon as you set up a presence here, the opportunities explode. Sometimes people will deal with you if you're outside country, but because of the difficulties in enforcing contracts and pursuing if there's non-payment, everyone is much more comfortable dealing with a local company. And it's the traditional chicken and egg argument. Like, I don't want to invest until I have a contract, but often you can't get the contract until you've invested in the company here. You will find that having a presence here is a huge advantage in picking up contracts, picking up businesses. It is difficult to service it from abroad. The only real exception to that is if what you're offering is extremely unique and there's no real competitors here, then you're more likely to be able to do it without setting up. Zach has said the accounting package is 10 transactions, limit per month. How does this work? So accounting transactions is essentially a line item in accounting. So Generally, for the majority of people that have a lot of transactions, what they do is they kind of keep their own internal bookkeeping, and then we do the filing for them. Alternatively, if you want us to do absolutely your full accounts, then we scale it up based on per average per transaction. So we have package for 10 transactions, 20 transactions, 30 transactions, 50 transactions, and then anything above 50 is a custom scale. Abdul Rahman has asked, is there a specific number of allowed trademarks that can be registered on under one license? No, you can register as many trademarks as you want and as many countries as you want. And also Dubai is now part of the Madrid system. So what that means is if you set up a trademark in Dubai and you plan to really take the business global, as soon as you have the Dubai trademark, you can then use that same application to apply in, I think, 140 other countries if you want to, without having to resubmit. You basically just select the countries you want, and the information you've already provided for the Dubai application will be replicated in the other countries when you meet the appropriate fees. Shabazz has asked, how long does it take to register and start a business? It really depends. Like you've asked about having a private limited company involved. That's complicated. Generally, that'll take a few months, but we need to speak about it and we can give you specific answers. Gani has asked about our referral agent program. So even if you're not setting up with us and you have someone that you think would be interested, you can refer them to us. We can record them as your referral, and we pay generally up to 3,000 dirhams per successful license that we issue. So some of the products that we deal with have very, very low margin, so the referral fee is low. Some of them have a bit higher margin, or if we do more services, we're happy to pay anyone for referring business to us. 60% of our business comes from referrals and recommendations. So that's really a big focus for us. Thank you very much for joining me. We'll be doing more of these webinars in the future, and if there's any particular topic or anything that you'd like to be addressed, we can have more specific and focused webinars, but this is really just a sort of general introduction to the UAE for those who are already familiar with it and for those who are completely new to it, because there's a lot more to consider now than in the past. But don't see that as a negative, see it as a positive, because as a result of that, there's a lot more businesses now doing business in the UAE that previously would not have come to the UAE. Thank you very much.